to another episode of Bubblegum Connects, where we connect with artists, creators, innovators, directors, and most importantly, we connect with you. Today, we're connecting with award-winning director and cinematographer Zeno Petersen, who has worked on the likes of Jacob's Cross, Isibaya, and most recently, South Africa's biggest show, Shaka ILembe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Okay, but I think the most important question is, what was that big moment where your breath got taken away and you saw something and you were like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
It's a strange story. I went to an art school in Pretoria, and after I finished the school, I was going to go study graphic design. So film was not something that I thought was possible to do back then. After I got into Damlin, I was going to study at Damlin. My one friend came to me and he was like, you know what, let's spend a year in Israel. You know, let's go to kibbutz. And I persuaded my dad and I said, you know, I'm still very young, can I go? And I decided to spend a year in Israel. I mean, I grew up in a household that loved watching movies, you know, the Christmas bit, the 3 movies every Saturday night. So I grew up in a household like that, but film was not a thing back from, you know, like back where we come from back then. And during that time, my parents decided that they're going to send me a care package. Okay, so they decided to send me this care package with all these South African goodies inside of it. And I think about like a week before I had to come back, this box arrived. The only thing that survived in this box was this magazine that I used to buy when I was in South Africa. And it was like this South African movie magazine that reviewed movies coming out. I finally opened up this magazine, and in this magazine, in the middle of the magazine, there was this competition for this new film school that opened up called AFTA in South Africa. So I was like, this is interesting. And it was like, you know, write a short story and then you might win like a bursary and something like that. So I was like, you know what, let me try this. So as soon as I landed and I got home, I decided to write the story, and it was all about my experience in Israel and everything I experienced there. And I sent that off, and a week later, they phoned me up and they were like, hey, we loved your story. Can you please come in and see us?
When you got to film school, did you like sort of struggle to catch up with your classmates? Like, what's a camera? What's a shot? What's this? What's a high angle? What's a low angle?
No, you know, like luckily not. Like when I started, at the film school, it was really small. Like I think we were about like 40 students, and I think there was like just a year above us that started the year before. So it was just this like very natural way of learning how to make films. I think it's changed quite a bit, but it was very hands-on. We got to spend a lot of time just playing with gear, just playing with cameras and playing with film. And obviously that changed over the years. Yeah.
What would you say are the most crucial qualities of a cinematographer?
Most crucial qualities of a cinematographer: to keep shooting, keep creating. You know, it's something that I've always done. I've always gone out taking photographs, just capturing images, telling my own stories like that. Just never stop, man. Just never stop. Those doors will open up. I always tell people, just be patient. You never know. It might happen tomorrow. It might happen in 10 years. Just be patient. Just don't let that flame burn out. Yeah.
Speaking of Shaka, how was the planning process of that, getting that greenlit, getting it financed, speaking to MultiChoice and Zanzi about it, and ensuring that you could be as creative and as big as that you wanted to be?
Well, so that job really relied on 2 people. It was Angus Gibson and Desiree Markgraf. We wanted to make sure that we took the time to do the research, because we didn't just want to come out with a project that, just didn't mean anything. We wanted to take that time and create something that's really beautiful and meaningful to people. So that whole process was very interesting. We've been shooting a lot of test stuff. Back in 2018, we started shooting test stuff to see what this potentially might look like, and working on the scripts and working on the sets and trying to decide what we want this world to look like. Yeah.
Besides the genre and sort of the script, what guided you in the look and feel of Shaka?
I think it's definitely a combination of things. Like you were saying, it's a combination of looking back at that time. And for us, what we do is we always try and find references of that period. So we looked at a lot of old photographs, a lot of old paintings, and Angus Gibson always manages to find like one picture, as a reference, and he based the whole show and the look and feel on that. So we found some images that we stuck on a wall that kind of motivated us, to find the look of the show. It was important for us to make the show look beautiful, that people can relate to today, but also make it feel real. We didn't want to make this show too glossy, if you know what I'm saying. We wanted to make the show feel tangible, like you could taste that dust in the air, feel that heat on the skin, and so on. So it was important for us to do that and not make it too shiny and happy.
Yes. Yeah. You directed episode 3.
Yeah, so I directed episode 3, 4, and 5.
How did you do that? How did you wear both very big roles, and how did you ensure that you were not sort of falling on one side and you were giving your all to the actors while still giving your all to Lens?
I had some practice in the past, but you gotta always surround yourself with the right people, and I always make sure that I surround myself with the best people I can possibly surround myself with when it comes to the technical team, the actors, and everybody. The whole crew is so important to that process. So being a director and director of photography can be challenging at some time. But I've kind of I found a way around that. So when I'm really focused on the story, I have my team that really supports me technically. I've got a very good operator called Salvation. I've known him for many years, so he would operate the camera for me. I've got a very good gaffer and grip, which really supports me in terms of lighting the scenes. So they give me the time to spend with the actors. Before I set up a scene, I would quickly speak to the technical team, and I'll tell them, okay, this is how I imagine the scene to look like. This is what I want the shots to be. And then I'll go off and then I'll spend the time with the actors and deal with them to get the performance out of the scene. And then, it's all kind of comes together. When I wasn't directing my episodes, I was shooting for the other directors. So I would jump between those two things the whole time, On one day, I'm doing both. I'm directing my episodes and I'm shooting. The next day, I'm just shooting for Angus, or I'd say, or MQ, and so on. So it was an experience, but I'm very happy that I did it that way. Yeah.
And then, what films do you watch for inspiration? What is your school of knowledge when it comes to directors and DPs? Films you keep going back to?
I love watching a lot of series.
What's your favorite series?
We just finished watching, which is I'm not sure if it's inspiring me to do anything. Maybe it will inspire my next project, funnily enough. But we just finished watching How to Get Away with Murder. Yeah. So we're still looking for another series to watch right now. And last night we watched Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds.
He's best, in my opinion.
It's such a great movie. It's just, and what I love about him is you learn so much about writing. It's all about that script. It's all about the dialogue. So you take that away. But generally, everything inspires me. I try and find inspiration in everything. So you can never please everybody, but you gotta just stick with your guns and just go with it. Yeah.
This is like a viewer's question. Episode 3, it starts with a big battle, and then you juxtapose it with Nandi and Sinzakwa's love scene. Why was that decision made instead of keeping them completely far from each other?
I must give credit to Angus Gibson. That was his, idea, and it was about a love and war. That was the decision that we made. It's like taking those two things and combining it and juxtaposing it. Because there is something quite, if I can say this, quite beautiful about seeing those two things that combine, the symbolism of those two things. It's quite deep. But I think it requires rewatching after people really look into it and the meaning of it. It's not just like, oh, this will be cool. There's a reason behind every decision that we make. Yeah.
Do you have hopes for season 2? Would we be getting a season 2?
Oof.
It's a secret thinking.
It'd be silly not to, huh?
It would be very
Silly not to.
Yeah. What made you feel that South Africa was ready for this show right now, especially this sort of telling, because it's completely different from the way the story's been told before?
With every project, we hope that it's a project that will open up the industry. For us, we felt like South Africa or Africa needed something like this. And we just felt like we needed something big to kind of like show the world and go, hey, look at us. We can do projects on this scale. We can tell stories on this scale. We're not just about telenovelas. We can make stuff that rivals shows like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. So come on, show us the money. Give us the money. And it's exciting because it's not just something that's good for us as a company. It's something that's good for the whole industry, I believe.
So what are some sort of traditional things you do before you go into a shoot, besides, storyboarding, side tracking?
Burning and paper. You gotta burn it. You gotta burn it. Yeah, dude. Yeah, cleanse yourself. I think. That comes from just being in this industry for so long and being subjected to the culture for so long. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's really about just preparing yourself mentally, physically, going into a shoot like this because it's very taxing. It takes a lot to do it. I don't think a lot of people know that it's very, it can get very emotional because you spend so much time on set with crew, and everybody becomes family on the set. But you don't spend a lot of time at home with loved ones because you give all of you to this project.
You've got a TikTok.
Right.
A funny TikTok. And people sort of like, wait, you are the director, you are the DP?
Yeah.
And like being spicy. Do you speak Zulu?
I can understand Zulu.
Okay, so it made the directing process easier.
Yeah, so I think I get this question quite a lot. Do I speak Zulu? Do I understand Zulu? And again, it just goes back to what I was saying. I've been in the industry for so long and predominantly just been working on Zulu projects, which like your ear kind of like gets used to that language and you pick up a lot of things. So when we do a scene, it feels like, the words that are on the page that's written in English, I know exactly what the actors are saying, and I can correct them when they say something wrong. I can give them notes in terms of where they need to change the emotion of a scene and in their dialogue as well. But obviously, I do have help. My continuity person that always sits next to me helps me with that as well when she hears or he hears that somebody said the wrong thing. I mean, as an example, you know, in Shaka, we had people on set every day that was listening to the actors and the way they spoke Zulu, because it was a very specific Zulu that was spoken back then. It wasn't like the modern day Zulu that we know today. So we had to have people there that could tell us, okay, that's sounding incorrect, or no, they're saying the wrong thing over there, or they're not pronouncing it correctly. But yeah, I can proudly say yes, I do. Yeah, I qualify. But given a new name apparently. I don't know if I'm going to say it correctly. It's Zeno and Kulu.
What's it like watching the show with your loved ones now that it's done, especially the ones that you directed, and seeing people comment on Twitter and all of that? What's it like?
It's interesting because I've seen this show I've seen my episodes like 100 times.
Yeah.
So right now, I love watching it to gauge how my loved one or my partner reacts to it, what she likes and doesn't like, what gets her excited, like what gets her emotional. But I also, I look at Twitter while the episode is going to also see what people react to. Because sometimes you think, oh man, that scene is so great. And then people are like, meh. And then I watch another scene which you think was just like an okay scene, and people react to that scene, and you're like, that's interesting, what people react to. So then you either take that and you use that, to your advantage, and you apply that knowledge to your next project.
What advice do you have for aspiring filmmakers, directors who don't have access to equipment or can't really go to film school, but have a story in their hearts that they want to tell?
There's one quote, one thing I always put out there is like, keep shooting, keep creating. And when I say that, it's important for them to know that the camera that you have right now is probably the one in your pocket, which is your phone. And you can shoot things on that. You can create things on that. There's so many different platforms that you can use, like Instagram, like TikTok, like, all these social media apps that you can tell your own little versions of your stories on. So do not wait, do not sit back, because nobody's just going to come knock on your door and say, hey, come out your house and come work for us. I know so many people that walked off the street and onto our set and said, hey, I'll come make coffee for you. I'll come run your cables. Just give me that opportunity. I don't recommend doing that all the time because security has kind of picked up on sets. So.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Watch episode 5. I directed and shot that as well. Well, I shot the whole show, but that is my last episode I directed, and believe me, that is the best episode. I'm so proud of that episode. So many things happen in that episode. It's such a beautiful, emotional, you've not seen anything like that. So, episode 5, Shaka ILembe. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Bubblegum Connects. Please don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.